Hello YouTube, welcome to another video. Today something slightly different. We're going to do a writer's challenge. I've never done this before, don't even know if it exists. I'm sure it's out there, but the idea just came into my head. I'm basically writing a book. It's a crime fiction book, but on about 64,000 words, and I want to see if I can get to 74,000 words, so writing 10,000 words by the end of the day. Is it possible? I don't know. I was reading about a writer called William Faulkner, and he was apparently super productive, as they all were back in the day, and he used to write thousands of words every single day, but apparently regularly he would write 10,000 words in a day. I don't know if this is true, I don't know if it's a good idea, but we're going to give it a go all the same. First the gym, then I'll take you back here so we can crack on and do some work. And look, I may end up culling the lot, but let's give it a try. A bit of fun, 10,000 words in a day. Let's go. So we're on the way to a little coffee shop I like to go to get our 10,000 words done. Classic writing antics. Should be fun though.
There's one behind that one. I was trying to catch the rugby stuff, not
Good morning, so I'm off to this place.
This is cute.
We're leaving the coffee shop, and we're on 66,000 words. We're going to go back and do some more. 10,000 words in hindsight was pretty ambitious, but the day is still young, fairly young, middle-aged, so it's not over yet. It's getting tricky, but we're going to push through and do what we can. So in some ways, the experiment was unsuccessful because I aimed for 10,000 words, and what we ended up with was 3,500 words. So it was a lot harder than I anticipated, but I still think it was a great exercise. So I want to just round up the video with some pros and some cons, and if you're a writer and it's something maybe you're struggling with, which is just the word count more generally with your novel, with your book, and getting the word count higher, I do think challenging yourself in this way is a good idea. So let's start with the good news, the pros. Writer's block for me is just a crisis of confidence. That's what it is. It's you convincing yourself that the words you're trying to write aren't good enough, that the plot you're trying to come up with isn't good enough, that none of it is really flowing the way you want it to. So the best way to countenance writer's block is either to carry on writing or to just simply walk away and come back when you're feeling a bit fresher. So challenging yourself to hit a certain number of words in a day just forces you to push through the writer's block. It forces you to push through that crisis of confidence, and although you then have to walk away maybe because you're not feeling fresh, you then have to come back because that is the challenge you set yourself. So although I was nowhere near my 10,000 words, I simply ran out of time. It takes a lot longer than you think. But if you are suffering from writer's block, if you feel like you can't push through to that next stage, challenging yourself just to sit down for one day and write as many words as you can, I don't think is a bad idea. And actually 3,500 words for me, that's the most I've ever written in a single day on this book, by far. So I think actually it's definitely a good exercise if you're trying to push through to the next level. Other pros as well is that you're simply not, you don't feel as restrained in what you're writing because your sole purpose is to get the word count up. So you're just sitting there, you're bashing out the words, and you sort of enter this flow state where you don't really feel as self-conscious about what you're writing, or at least I didn't anyway. And so especially for the first 2,500 words, that was easy. That was possibly the easiest writing I've done in a very long time, just because I'm trying to get the word count up. I'm not overthinking it. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to overcomplicate it. I'm just trying to write, which is quite a freeing experience all in all. Very nice. Cons. Now, when I got to the 2,500 point, I thought this is really easy. I'm not sure I'm going to hit 10,000 words, but 2,500 was very simple, very straightforward. After that point, I found myself at least getting slightly mentally lazy. What do I mean by that? I simply mean that I was typing words for the sake of it. I wasn't really concerned with where the plot was going. My method for writing is I make it up as I go along. I find it more fun as an experience, and I don't really like to plan beforehand. That's like the Lee Child approach, even though he's probably a lot better at that than I am. But that's simply how I like to do things. And I found myself taking the plot in quite weird directions, and it got to the point where I thought, if I carry on writing, this is going to be gibberish, and I know I'm going to have to cut it. So that's part of the reason why I stopped as well. So I think depending on the type of individual you are, you may hit a certain point where you're simply mentally not as sharp as you were at the start of the exercise, and when that happens and you start to feel yourself going a bit sluggish and a bit lethargic, it probably is time to stop. So there are cons. The quality degrades as the word count gets higher. That's, I think, a mental kind of lethargy. It's something which, unless you're a very specific individual, you're going to struggle with. But maybe I'll try this again one day. I'm saying this now, but maybe in a couple of years' time, I'll do the challenge again and I'll smash it and think, oh, I was just a bit weak back then, or I wasn't as good as I am now. Who knows? Maybe experience will tell. But for now, I'd say the cons mainly is you run out of time and mental lethargy. There are only so many hours in the day, and when you try and cram to hit a certain word count, especially a very ambitious word count, there is the risk that the quality will deteriorate. So it's something to watch out for. But key positive takeaway is that I came away with about, roughly, after I'd gone over it and edited and churned and chopped the bits which were no good, I probably had about 3,000 words of good quality, which was better than I thought it was going to be, and 3,000 words which I'd like to keep in the first draft of the manuscript. So pros, push through the writer's block, get your work done more effectively than you think. Cons, mental lethargy, fatigue creeping in, the quality deteriorates, and you simply run out of time. Other than that, well worth a try. So give it a go. Writers, 10,000 words, challenge, one day. Let me know how you got on in the comments section. Like and subscribe, and let's do more of these challenges because they're a lot of fun and they help to push you to the next level. Right. See ya.